Even with glasses on, I can't read some of this.
Let's call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, May 12th, 2026. Let's start with roll call tonight.
Carey? Here. Kimball?
Present.
Stephenson?
Here.
Schlethauer?
Here.
Schreiber?
Here?
Flock?
Here.
All right. Any ceremonies, announcements, appointments, or presentations? Mr. Manley.
Here we go. Today is National Limerick Day, for those that didn't know that. So I got a quick one here,
Nice.
or two. There once was a town by the river where permits made builders all shiver, but with patience and grace, they'd eventually place a new shop where folks could all gather and quiver.
Excellent.
There's even another one here.
Okay.
In Post Falls, by the dam and the pines, folks gather where cold lager flows. You came for one night. Well, that's how it starts, right? Next week, you'll be browsing home shows.
Even more
Very,
appropriate.
very talented.
There you go.
Well, chat kind of helped out.
Oh,
That's all right. As long as you quote your reference. So all right. Any amendments to the agenda?
None.
Okay. Any declaration of conflict, ex parte contacts, or site visits from commission members?
I have a declaration of ex parte contact. It's not recent. So I think in 2008 or 2009, I was hired to do a subdivision for this property. So I'm very familiar with it, but there's nothing that I know about the property that is not contained in the staff report or in the materials in the staff report or in the application.
I assume that's okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Next item is consent calendar.
Yeah, we got action item A, which is the meeting minutes from the April 14th, 2026 meeting. We also have the meeting minutes from April 27th, 2026. And that's action item B.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Somebody like to make a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, motion. Second?
second.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Flock?
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Schlethauer?
Yes.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Carey? Yes. Kimball?
Yes.
All right, next item is citizen issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an issue that is not on the agenda to item on the agenda tonight. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Do we have any takers? Seeing none. The unfinished or old business.
There's none.
All right. That'll move us into the meat of the meeting, which is the public hearing. We have one tonight. As some of you have already probably done, if you're wanting to testify during the hearing, make sure you fill out the paperwork and bring it up to the front here, and we'll bring you up at that time. And at this time, we'll open up the hearing. McKinley Meadows, PUD, SUP, and Subdivision.
Can I ask just one quick question? On our agenda, on our electronic version, there's not a copy of the staff report.
I know, I was just noticing that.
I hadn't even opened it that much.
So we don't have the exhibits or anything. The only exhibits we have are the comments from public agencies
In the public.
and the public, yes.
Frank D. 66 comments. Yeah, we don't have the staff report.
I don't know if that's an issue or not, but
Yeah, Chris is looking at the version he sees. It's on his, but
Let me see what this one is.
it wasn't on the website download packet either. You had to download it separately for some reason.
Yeah, we got Post Falls, Cooney Fire, DEQ, public comment, Phillips 66, and which one is this? BPA, power line. No staff report.
are you guys going to the agendas link or via the website that
I'm
shows?
It's
going
on the tablet here.
It's whatever they.
same way I
Oh, on
always
the
go.
tablet?
Commissioners, using the link that I usually use, which is the exterior link for the planning and zoning agenda tonight, I do see that it was included in that one. So I apologize, I'm not sure how that information gets on your guys' tablets or not. That's an IT question, which is a little bit out of my pay grade. I think it was published
Yeah.
appropriately, so.
No, it was.
With that, I guess I will just go with the staff report and everything else, and just, sorry, bear with us on that one.
Oh, it's okay.
I don't see any reason to continue the hearing at this point unless.
No, yeah,
you
no,
guys
I
want to do
agree.
that.
Is there anything media can do to, or can we go
let me double
to
check.
the website through here, or? I'm not an Apple person, so.
Hit that one. Yeah, take like a 5-minute recess, we'll get it.
Maybe John could do another Limerick.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess here just to get this situated. All right, call the meeting back to order. Sorry about that, guys. I think we're all situated now. And I had already opened the meeting, so we'll just continue. Or the hearing, I should say.
Associate planner here, and the project before you is McKinley Meadows. It is a special use permit, planned unit development, and a subdivision. Case file SUP-26-3, PUD-26-1, and SUBD-26-3. So the property owner is Shane Anderson, and the applicant representing them is MacArthur Engineering. Said there's 3 requested actions or permits. You have the special use permit to allow development of a cottage home community within a single-family R1 zone, a planned unit development or PUD, and the applicant is requesting to have proposed modifications to the city standards approved through a PUD. And then the subdivision applicant requests approval of subdividing approximately 2.68 acres into 18 single-family residential lots. This will also be the order that the motions are carried out in, so I'll go through the review criteria in this order so you guys can see. Because if the SUP doesn't go through, then the other 2 would not go through. So I'm also going to be repeating myself a lot because a lot of these criteria have similar questions. So we'll get through it. I'll try and be brief. Here we go. Current land use, it's a single-family home. It's over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. The water provider is City of Post Falls, and the wastewater is also Post Falls. Here is the project site in the black hatch marks at the end of Montgomery Place, at the end of that cul-de-sac. To the north is the Post Falls School District owns this property. You've got two different school sites here. It's north and northeast of the site off of Cherry Ave, and then you have Chase Road as well. To the south is the project. It parallels the railroad tracks. And then to the east, we have along Montgomery Place are developed with single-family homes as well as the different shops, structures, and whatnot in that subdivision in that neighborhood. And then to the west, just a little bit more, there's also some school property to the west. And then across the railroad tracks, you've got some commercial uses to the west and south. Here's what the zoning looks like in the area. So this is in the R1 zone. And then again, to the north where the school property is in the R1 zone. To the south and sort of to the west is commercial property, the CCS across the railroad tracks. And then to the east, you have single-family residential in the R1. And then you also see just a little bit of medium density residential right here along Cherry Avenue. So there's the zoning surrounding the immediate site. Here is what the property looks like currently. So this encompasses the 2.68 acres. You can see the existing single-family home right here, and this will be preserved on site and become part of this subdivision. And then before we get into all the review criteria, just want to show you what is actually being proposed. We're going to talk about a lot of these things in greater detail, but this just front loads you and gives you an idea of what we're actually looking at and talking about tonight. So you see there's 17 proposed new lots with cottage homes, each on their own individual lot. And then you've got the existing home on one lot as well. There's just one access point into the site from Montgomery Place at the end of the cul-de-sac. This is Montgomery Place. So it comes in on Montgomery Lane. And then this looks like it might go through to the school site, but this is actually for an emergency access only. So this is the access gate, and so this is not open to through traffic. We've also got a vehicle turnaround here for fire trucks or trash removal, things of that sort. We've got some additional parking over here, and then they will have an amenity as well. You can also see that just these green spaces are all open space. So that gives you an idea of what we're talking about. So now we can get into the review criteria. So first we'll do the special use permit. So first, implementation of the special use will or will not conform to the purpose of the applicable zoning district. The R1 zone is intended for single-family homes on lots of minimum size or larger, and also permit other accessory uses that are associated and compatible with the residential use, such as a shop. The intent is to construct detached single-family cottage homes accessed by a local residential road with other platted single-family homes on larger lots. A cottage home style development is an allowed use in the R1 zone with the approval of an SUP, and the lots will meet the bulk and placement standards for cottage homes. Continuing with that review criteria, the proposal includes 17 new lots with one existing, so a total of 18. On a parcel that is a bit larger than 2.5 acres. It's at 2.68 acres. This works out to be about 6.72 dwelling units per acre, slightly lower than the required minimum lot area of 6,500 square feet. They come in at approximately 6,477 square feet per dwelling unit, and that equates to a 4% increase in the allowable density from the base density. However, with a PUD, you can exceed density by 10% if you provide extra land for open space, which they are proposing to do, and we will get into that with the PUD review criteria. Whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use as established by this chapter for the zoning district involved and complies with all other applicable laws. Cottage home residential development is permitted in R2, R3, RM. It's also allowed in CCM where approved development agreement would allow multifamily residential uses. And then cottage homes may also be approved with a special use permit in the CCS and the R1 zoning district. And we are in the R1 zoning district for this project. Whether the proposed use will or will not comply with the health, safety, or will be compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or with land uses in the vicinity. We'll talk about transportation first. The subject property is accessed off Montgomery Place with an additional emergency access from the Celtice Elementary School site. Montgomery Place is a local residential roadway. Estimated traffic counts are just under 200 vehicle trips per day. Development of the site is likely to increase traffic counts to somewhere around 300 to 350 vehicles per day, and this increase is well within the city standards, which is under 1,200 trips per day. For water reclamation, the site will be connected to the city's water reclamation facilities, which are located along the property's northeastern boundary, and a main extension is proposed to be extended with the new roadway section from Montgomery Place. The Water Reclamation Master Plan does not indicate any capacity issues, and the addition of the 18 units will not reduce the existing downstream sewer systems below established capacity limits. So the city has capacity and the capability to handle the wastewater at the requested zone and density. Now on to domestic water. The site will be serviced by the city of Post Falls for water. The applicant has secured a preliminary access agreement from the Post Falls School District to extend a water main from Chase Road through their site all the way to Montgomery Place. The proposed water main extension will meet needs for water service to the project, so the city has capacity and is willing to provide service to the site as proposed.
I have a quick question. It's probably for Rob. Will the extension and connection of this water main increase pressure for the existing residents on Montgomery Place?
I'll have to defer to Rob on that one, yeah.
Or maybe to state it differently, will it decrease pressure, increase pressure, or have no effect?
Commissioner Kimball, members of the commission, Robert Paulus, city engineer. It's likely that it may impact pressures in the area slightly up or slightly down. Usually when you add a loop in, you see a little bit of an increase in pressure, but the pressure zone it's in, there really shouldn't be much change other than a PSI or two.
Okay, thank you.
That's the best information we have.
Okay, thank you.
And then still talking about the compatibility of this project with the surrounding area. We talked about impacts of water and sewer and traffic, and so now we can talk about the surrounding neighborhood. As far as the use itself, the surrounding neighborhood includes the school to the north, businesses to the south across the railroad tracks, some R2 density to the north in the orange color along Cherry Avenue, and then more single-family detached residential to the east in the yellow color along Montgomery Place. Further east, there's also a sports field and a city library in pink. So, and then also some R3 zone just north of the pink there on Cherry Ave as well. So there's a wide variety of uses, zones, and housing types in this area. The proposed cottage homes are not inconsistent with the types of housing in the immediate vicinity, because they are single-family detached housing products, but are in smaller lots than the immediate parcels to the east on Montgomery Place. Whether the proposed use will or will not comply with the goals and policies found within the comprehensive plan. So we've got several goals here, goals 1, 2, and 7. For goal 1, enabling a range of housing options close to schools, I-90, and commercial corridors. The city may position itself as a more competitive, inclusive community. This not only supports workforce retention, but also encourages small business growth and enhances fiscal stability through diversified tax revenues. For goal 2, enabling additional housing near schools, the Boys and Girls Club, the library, and community transit may assist in meeting goal 2. Goal 7, diversification and housing choice may assist in achieving Goal 7. We also have some policies. Policy 1, support land use patterns that maintain or enhance community levels of service. Impact fees will be paid at the time of permit issuance to assist in maintaining community levels of service. Foster the long-term fiscal health of the community. Diversified housing opportunities bolsters the long-term health of housing sector within a community. The industrial and commercial sectors within a community benefit by having healthy and a diverse housing sector, as it either offers securities that their employees have a place to live or puts more rooftops in the area to provide commerce. Maintain and enhance residential quality of life. The proposed location of the project is within walking distance to nearby schools, Boys and Girls Club, library, community transit, and commercial businesses along Saltese that may provide for some daily needs, and this all potentially could improve quality of life and promote compatible, well-designed development. The proposed development is within R1 zone property that has been designed to integrate into the adjacent R1 zone properties to the east. The project will be required to also provide a fence along the railroad rights of way, separating it from the railroad to the south. And then for implementing goals and policies, that's what we're talking about right now. For policy 2, apply revised zoning designations with careful consideration of factors including future land use mapping. The site has a future land use designation of low-density residential, which encompasses all types of single-family residential uses, up to 8 dwelling units per acre, and also supports land uses such as parks, schools, and public facilities, compatibility with surrounding land uses, single-family cottage homes being allowed through an SUP in the R1 zone suggests that this use may be compatible with other single-family land uses, and the SUP process provides for the opportunity to mitigate potential incompatibilities with neighboring properties. Infrastructure and service plans. The site is located adjacent to existing city sanitary sewer and city water infrastructure, which have sufficient capacity to provide service for the anticipated land use, and then existing and future traffic patterns. The site would gain access from Montgomery Place, and then propose an additional emergency access through the Post-Fall School District site. The projected development will not reduce roadway capacity below the city's adopted level of service standards. And then here's the land use maps. You can see, again, there's the site in the black hatch, and it is in the low-density residential land use designation. South of the railroad in the pink, we have the business commercial. So it's pretty much surrounded by low-density housing, low-density residential land use, and then south of the railroad, business commercial. A few more policies. Policy 8, this lot could be considered as infill, and redevelopment with a higher density could offer some relief to the projected housing concerns within the city. For policy 15, the proposed project could help create additional housing in the R1 zoning designation, but at a more attainable price point. Additionally, the recent housing needs study encourages diversification of housing products. For policy 19, the project is an example of clustering single-family residential uses that will also develop private open space for residents per the cottage home design standards. And that's what I kind of want to show here. You see these homes may be a little pushed together closer than a typical single-family residential development. And part of that is so that there is open space to the west, north, and just a little bit here on the east as well. And those kind of act as buffers from the surrounding development and for the surrounding development as well. So there's an example of the clustering development. So that's for the SUP. Now we will move on to the PUD review criteria.
Maybe we do some questions before you.
Sure.
You want to take them
No,
as
yeah.
you go, or you want to go at the end of each one?
We can take them as we go.
What specifically is the feature that is requiring the special use permit?
The cottage home development.
Because of the density, or to have cottage homes in R1?
Yeah, the type is the cottage homes.
Cottage homes in R1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what makes these cottage homes versus a standard single-family residence?
They're on smaller lots.
So cottage homes, the single-family homes have to be between 800 and 1,400 square feet with no more than 1,200 on the main floor. They are required to provide a certain percentage of their own private open space. 10% of each lot needs to be part of their own private space, as well as contribute to a certain percentage, I think it's about 350 square feet, for their common open space. And so I believe in this, that would be in their tract A and B, that's the one to the west and north, to meet their needs for the cottage homes. Cottage homes still need to provide 2 off-street parking stalls, which Justin will go into, but that's kind of the arrangement. The goal and the intent of originally adopting this code section was to create opportunities because of that size restriction to maybe hit some attainable market.
And then there's also, at the end of the slideshow, you see there are also additional conditions that, as the commission, you can add to, hopefully, if there are any incompatibilities with the surrounding neighborhood. That's also an option you have with the SUP process.
One more question, John. I'm not sure this is the right format for this, but I'm just curious. The new state legislation, when does that go into effect? And would it affect the requirement to have a SUP on this?
Well, I think it's October in that time frame that it would come to effect, but I believe that's for 4 acres or more. This is less than 4 acres. How that actually gets implemented, we're still in discussions internally on how to adapt our codes for that. But at this point in time, the way it's written is for 4 acres or more.
Okay.
Yep.
You mean the starter home subdivision code changes? Yeah. I think it's in October, and it probably wouldn't apply in this situation.
All right. We'll move on to the PUD criteria, and I'll stop at this section as well so we can have some questions. So PUD is a master plan development that encourages enhanced community design by permitting flexibility in certain development standards, which we will go through all the different things that they're asking for some flexibility on. And then one thing I kind of already touched on, but they are able to ask for an increase in density up to 10%. If they provide additional open space, they're asking for an additional 4% in the overall base density. And because of that, they're providing an additional 5% of, a little more than 5% of landscaping. So we will get to that. The review criteria is up top, and it's color-coded to help me keep track and you keep track because there's a lot of them here. So we will start going through them. The proposed PUD provides for adequate utilities, services, and parking to service the proposed development by providing a public water supply system that has adequate supply to serve the proposed development. The project will connect to city water system and includes a water main extension from Chase Road to Montgomery Place. B, providing public wastewater collection system that is designed in accordance with the city's adopted wastewater master plan. And we've also touched on this. Sewer is adjacent to the site on the northeast boundary in Montgomery Place, and the proposed layout is in conformance with city standards, and the existing system has adequate capacity to accommodate the project. C, providing adequate accommodation for other utilities necessary to support the proposed development. The application identifies corridors for other utilities and easements along the private roadway. D, provides sufficient parking throughout the development to adequately meet the parking needs of all proposed uses in the PUD. Each proposed lot in this development, including the existing home, is required to have a minimum of 2 off-street parking areas. And then there are 5 additional guest parking spaces that are provided along the proposed private roadway, which is Montgomery Lane, which you saw earlier, and I'll show you again. And so they are meeting the cottage home development requirements. That's 0.25 parking spaces per home, and at 18 homes, that's 4.5 spaces. So we round up, and they're providing 5. And that's what you can see here. So each lot will have 2 parking spaces, and then there are the additional 5 guest spaces. The next criteria, the proposed PUD provides for integrated transportation network that adequately serves the proposed development by providing for the continuation of arterial and collector streets, meeting city standards for traffic volume in a manner consistent with the city's adopted transportation master plan. Montgomery Lane will be a private street maintained by an HOA and will connect to Montgomery Place. An emergency ingress and egress access will also be constructed part of the development through the Celtice Elementary School parking lot. This improves emergency access for this development and for those living along the public right-of-way of Montgomery Place as well. Here's a little bit better view. You can see that. So if you look all the way onto the right side of the screen or the east, you've got Montgomery Place, and the end of that cul-de-sac goes into Montgomery Lane, which is this project. And then you have the emergency access gate right in the middle of the screen. And then that goes all the way out to Chase Road, and that goes through. This is the school site here. And again, this is only for emergency access. B, providing a local street network that allows adequate traffic circulation and snow storage throughout the entire development. The local street network is a combination of public and private roadways with a small parking area on site. The proposed roadway widths are in conformance with the city design standards for private roadways, and sufficient on-site maneuvering and a turnaround space is proposed on Montgomery Lane. Montgomery Lane is unlikely to extend further to the north or west because of the Post Falls School District, their property, and then the railroad properties to the south, precluding any further roadway extension. Providing a pedestrian and bicycle system designed to provide adequate circulation throughout the entire development. Pedestrian access is provided in this private neighborhood via the proposed sidewalk, which will be on the north side of Montgomery Lane, and this will connect to the existing sidewalk on Montgomery Place. It's expected that in the future that the adjacent railroad right-of-way may be converted to a public trail system, and so access from the open space tracks to the future trail area will be reserved on the plat. Any questions so far? Should I keep going?
I have a just quick question. Am I assuming there's no street parking within the development?
Correct. It's just the parking either on their lot or in the guest parking.
So with the connection to the railroad, I see that it basically touches the railroad right away at a point.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about, let's see.
Right down there. So if the
Yeah.
requirement is to touch the railroad right of way so you get pedestrian access to the railroad right of way, and doing it at a point doesn't seem very effective.
The applicant might be able to speak to that a little bit, or I don't know if Rob is able to speak to that.
I mean, it's just, it's not really a question, it's more just a comment that it doesn't seem like a
I think the
practical requirement if that's the way the open space is configured.
I think the applicant will speak to that.
Okay.
I think it's a progressive intent that if you get an easement on there, then when the property to the west, when that develops, then you can coordinate to the southwest.
But isn't that the school district?
Yeah, so we can coordinate with, it allows for coordination for access to a future trail. If we don't have it, then
Okay, that makes sense then.
So maybe they could get on the school's access, is what you're saying.
yeah, it'll take some coordination. But if you don't have the access easement in
Is
place,
that an
the reason-
existing access easement across the school property, or is that a new?
I doubt they have a blanket. I mean, people walk everywhere. There's probably no.
I just mean for the vehicular access, the emergency fire
I'll let,
road.
I don't know the status of that. I'd probably let the city engineer, maybe he's looked at the access easements.
Okay.
All right. Next criteria, the proposed PUD provides enhanced community design by conserving and incorporating the site's significant natural, scenic, and/or historical features in the development, if any. There are no known significant natural, scenic, and/or historical features on the site, and the existing home on the site is intended to be preserved. Integrating a mix of compatible land uses in the development and adequately buffering and/or separating any incompatible uses in the development. Property is uniquely shaped and situated at the end of a right-of-way cul-de-sac. The proposed lots and homes are smaller parcels but are not inconsistent with other single-family homes along Montgomery Place, as they are all single-family detached products. The preservation of the pre-existing home will serve as an opportunity to transition into the smaller lots to the west. C, locating the proposed uses and lot sizes in the proposed PUD in a manner that blends with the surrounding uses, neighborhoods, and public facilities located in the city. The surrounding uses, neighborhoods, and public facilities located in the city provide for the detached single-family residences. The applicant is applying for detached single-family cottage-type product with modifications through the PUD, which we will get into. As we've already mentioned, the proposed cottage-family homes are on smaller lots than the immediate properties to the east, but the site has been designed to hopefully blend the development into the existing neighborhood with the preservation of the existing home, and then the largest lots are towards the east of the new subdivision towards the existing subdivision on Montgomery Place. The average lot size here is about 4,500 square feet, just a little under, with the largest being the one with the existing home. Obviously, that will be reduced. And then the smallest lot being 3,452 square feet, and there's a few of them that are that size. D, providing at least 10% of the gross land area for open space that meets the recreational needs of the users of the development and provides for a variety of recreational uses. Here, we're saying it's actually a minimum of 15% that they need. And again, that's because they're going slightly over the base density, so they need to provide an additional 5% of open space. So their minimum requirement is 15%, which is 17,485 square feet, and they're providing approximately 18,000 square feet between the different open space tracts proposed. And then here, you can see this is the preliminary, some of the landscaping. Here are the open space tracts. You can see that this is what is getting them to meet their 18,000 square foot or their 15% minimum requirement. And then also just wanted to show, you can kind of see here, we've got the largest lots are here to the east, not fronting, but closer to Montgomery Place where the existing neighborhood is. And then as you transition west and go further down Montgomery Lane, the lots get a little smaller, and then they become like a uniform size once you get down into here. So just kind of a blend of the density is, I think, what the developer, or the applicant is trying to achieve here. The proposed PUD provides for a timely development of the property and security for future completion and maintenance by A, ensuring that each development block contains all the necessary elements to exist independently from future blocks. Well, this proposed development would meet this criteria. It is being constructed or completed in a single phase. B, ensuring that each building in the development has sufficient access around the structure to allow for continual maintenance of the building and access for emergency services. The plans meet all zoning and subdivision design standards to provide sufficient access around the structure, allowing for continual maintenance and access for emergency services. Additionally, all buildings will be required to meet applicable building and fire codes. C, ensuring that a funding mechanism exists to adequately maintain common areas that are not publicly maintained. The subdivision and PUD will be required to have an HOA to maintain all common areas, including the corresponding frontages. So that's all the review criteria, and here are the design deviations that they are requesting along with their PUD. So first one, front-loaded cottage homes. They're asking to allow for 100% front-loaded homes instead of a maximum of 50%, meaning that all of the 17 new cottage homes would front onto Montgomery Lane. Open space frontage, allow required open space to not front a street, so 0% instead of the required 20%. And instead, this is to act as a buffer to the adjacent school property. For density, we've covered this a few times already, but they're asking for an approximately 4% increase above the base density. This is within the allowable request of 10%. And then they have some specific requirements for Lot 7 and Block 2. They want to reduce the rear yard setback to 9 feet to accommodate the design of a pedestrian access easement, and then reduce the minimum open space dimension from 15 feet to 12 feet. And that is what you see here. So this is Lot 7 of Block 2. This is the very most northwest parcel. Let me go back. It's this parcel right here that we're talking about, furthest northwest. They're asking this to be reduced down to 9 feet, and then have the minimum open space dimension on this one reduced from 15 feet to 12 feet, which is what you see right here.
To me, that looks like 4 feet, because you've got a 5-foot pedestrian access way.
I think it's an easement, so the setback would be from the property line.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions on the PUD before I move to the subdivision review criteria?
So each one of these driveways is roughly 14 by 20, and then there's a one-car garage accessed off of that, roughly.
Can you go back to your list real quick? So these are basically the takes of the give and take of the PUD. What are the gives?
It allows a more community-based design, I guess, and then some of these open space areas.
Got a little bigger. The green areas are bigger than they would be otherwise.
That also allows them to get that's what allows them to get the 4% increase of density.
Uh-huh.
All right. We'll move on to the subdivision review criteria. So here's the subdivision. This one might be a little harder to see just because it doesn't have a lot of color on it, but essentially we're seeing the same thing. Here's the first lot with the existing home. We've got a couple open space tracks around the periphery, and then the cottage home lots along Montgomery Lane. So first review criteria. Definite provision has been made for a water supply system that is adequate in terms of quantity and quality for the type of subdivision proposed. Again, we've gone over this a couple times, but water service to the development would be provided by the city, and development of service includes an extension of a new main from Chase Road, and they've got a preliminary approved easement across the Post Falls School District property for that. Adequate provisions have been made for a public sewage system that the existing municipal system can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. The city has adequate capacity to provide service to the subdivision as proposed, and the conceptual layout of the sanitary sewer system as proposed shows the ability to be served and shall be designed and constructed to the city standards. The proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. The subdivision and proposed layout are consistent with the transportation master plan. Roadways, storm drain management, roadway illumination, ADA ramps, and marking signs shall all comply with city standards with final design and construction. And then an HOA will be responsible for maintenance of private roads, landscaping, irrigation, snow removal, sidewalk, and also on the adjoining open space tracts within the project site. All areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards have been identified. No known soil or topographical conditions that could present hazards have been identified. And there will be a fence that is required to be installed along the south against the rail corridor with the development of the project prior to final plat. The area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the proposed uses, and the uses conform to other requirements in the code. Single-family cottage detached homes are allowed with approval of an SUP in the R1 zone. The deviations proposed with the PUD from the development standards within the Post Falls Municipal Code may provide an enhanced community design. And with PUD approval, the proposed subdivision would be consistent and conforming with the zoning of the proposed use. And finally, the developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of cost to provide services by paying fees or furnishing land or providing other mitigation measures. Impact fees will be assessed and collected on individual building permits to assist in mitigating the offsite impacts to parks, public safety, and multimodal pathways, streets, and fire and other emergency management services. Here's a list of agencies that were notified of the project. We received comments back from these 5. They basically all had no comments, no facilities in the area, or will coordinate at the time of development. And then this again is for the SUP. Just wanted to remind you that these are the 6 things, the conditions that you may attach in order to minimize any impacts that you see that this development would have on the neighboring or surrounding neighborhood or properties. And then I have the map for you one more time, but I can also leave you right here. That concludes my presentation, and I know the applicant is here as well.
On the subdivision map itself, or on the plat, is there a reason why it doesn't show an easement for emergency access out the back? When because it does show all the other easements that we've been talking about, but it doesn't show that one.
I think the applicant said they'll address that as well.
Okay.
We'll see.
The conditions you had up there just a second ago, are those already in these long list of other conditions, or?
These are things that the commission can add. So no, they're not included in the conditions in the staff report.
Are they listed anywhere in here?
James, so given that we're doing a special use permit, by law, we're allowed to impose additional conditions. These are suggestions of areas that we can
Okay.
dive into. These aren't specific necessarily. These are just general topics of
Yeah.
which the commission may
So I
say.
guess where I'm going is, when we get to that point, if these could come back up, so we can look at them to see if they are appropriate to add or not add, if they're not in the staff report.
One of the main ones is just to minimize adverse impact on other development. It gives you a broad brush to consider how it impacts others.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one quick one, probably for John. Can parking be considered an amenity in an open space tract?
Not for a PUD. I believe in the calculations, they subtracted that out of track B from their calculations. The applicant can speak towards that, but
So not in a, so, okay. But so the PUD, but in a special use, well, so the extra 5%, is that in the special use permit, or is that a part of the PUD?
as part of the PUD to get additional density.
Okay.
So earlier when you,
15%,
yep,
okay.
so typically you get a 10% open space with some said deviation, and then you get, it requires an additional 5% deviation if you have.
Right, I was just wondering if you could consider parking an amenity, if it's in the open space next to the amenities.
We don't consider that. We consider it as a requirement for the cottage home, the 0.25 per unit as a required offset for.
I mean, additional parking.
And you're
There's a
saying,
list of allowed amenities, I believe, in the cottage home code, isn't there?
Not in the multifamily design standards, it's a completely different thing. We have a list of required amenities, but not for cottage homes to provide in their open space for an amenity package. There is nothing that's cited that I can recall.
Yeah. There's the two sides, the single lot and then the community version.
I guess kind of where I'm going with it is I see there, I mean, it's nice to have open space, but it's also, parking and open space can sometimes coincide really well. It's like parking for the use of open space. Like, for instance, I think they have a little gazebo area there, and if there's some parking next to the gazebo, that amenity, that might be an amenity that could go into open space, I guess, kind of not take away from their open space calculation, I guess. So I guess I'm asking, would that be an allowable thing for us to condition, but not mess up their open space calculation?
You have those 6 items to review to make that you can go above and beyond what code normally would require right there. So, assuring the development is maintained, controlling the location and setback development, requiring more restrictive standards, controlling the sequence and timing of the development. So I think it's pretty open for you to add things to suggestions as part of the SUP.
Okay, I would just wanted to make sure that if there were a request or a condition to add additional parking that would eat up some open space, that it wouldn't, that would still be considered open space even though it was being used as parking. Because right now they're pretty much at Racer's Edge. They've got a couple hundred square feet over.
Right.
And
Where it would come into conflict is the PUD does not allow the parking to be part of the open space.
Okay. I mean, okay. I was just trying to work it so that the parking would be considered an amenity, an open space amenity versus a requirement.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see with the three-tiered prong here, the SUP, PUD, and the subdivision, how you're not going to trip up the PUD by going down that endeavor.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I got a question retaining just to parking. Are there minimums, sizes on these parkings, on these front loads like this? Is there a minimum requirement in these cottage homes for size? When you look at that map up there, when you showed it up there, and I think you brought it up, it was 8 by 14 for the,
We usually go for a 20-foot
Space.
length from generally impervious surface or the sidewalk to the front of the garage. The applicant can go into that, and the reason for that is to keep the vehicle completely out of the travelway.
but it's
Those show,
it's including the
9 by
sidewalk,
20
though.
then, or?
those show is 14 by 20, the way they have them drawn.
14 by 20, the way they have it drawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on platted lots, the drive approach can be no more than 40% the lot width.
Okay.
We don't really provide a minimum, but logistically, we would push back if you can't. Once you get narrower than a vehicle, we would say that it's, it doesn't satisfy the intent.
Yeah, and the 20-foot, it's only on one side of the sidewalk side there. I was just wondering on that side
I guess,
versus the other side, so.
John, to that end, a typical driveway in a subdivision is 17 by 20. Would it be so bad that we asked to add 3 feet so they get 2 parallel stalls in front of their house and sacrifice that one ask to get more parking?
Yeah, I know that a developer at one time proposed 16 feet wide for 2/8, but 17, yeah, that might work.
16 or 17 is typical, so, yeah. Okay.
Anything else? All right.
All right, thank you.
Invite the applicant up. Name for the record, please.
Hi, good evening, Commission. Scott MacArthur, MacArthur Engineering. Here tonight on behalf of Wild LLC, who is the contract buyer for this property from Mr. Shane Anderson. And I'm not sure where our start is here. Sorry, this one's different than mine, bud. There it is. There it is. That's the button. So again, McKinley Meadows, 18-lot subdivision, R1 zoning. This is essentially a cottage home development backed up to an existing single-family residential home. The property, again, is located, I'm trying not to rehash a lot of the stuff that staff has provided for you tonight. The property is located here at the end of Montgomery Place, adjacent to Celtice Elementary School, which is north of Mullen and west of Compton. The property, again, is zoned R1, adjacent to your CCS commercial uses and your R3 higher density uses off Cherry Avenue. The future land use map, again, is low-density residential, which supports all types of single-family residential housing, including cottage homes with our SUP and PUD request. Here is a quick snippet of the original Cherry addition to Post Falls. As you can see, Lot 9, which is our lot, is significantly larger than the other lots in this development, which allows potentially the intent at the time maybe was for a future addition. We don't know. But then the school property was purchased adjacent and so on. So why are we trying to seek obtainable housing? We need to provide for our workforce, for our parents, for our children, veterans and seniors. They all need an opportunity for home ownership. And I think I've stood up here before and spoke to this. It is an ongoing issue here. And as a business owner, I see that affordability going away. And I'm born and raised here in town. This is a difficult thing for me to do to our town. But this is something that is needed to support our growth in our community that's coming our direction. This is a perfect location for this type of product. So again, obtainable housing, develop the concept, develop the product, select the property, make sure it's financially feasible. That's always the big ticket here with land in North Idaho. Come up with a process, work with staff and your agencies, fix your time frame, and go to work. So again, we have a subdivision, 18 lots, one existing home that will remain on a 9,000 square foot lot, 9,000 plus square foot lot adjacent to the other 9,000 plus square foot homes, lots off Montgomery Place. Roughly 2.67 acres, works out to a density of around 6.7 units per acre with a minimum lot size of 3,452 square feet. You know, the alternative to my client purchasing this property was for a developer out of the area to come in and purchase this property, which is ideal for much needed apartments. We were able to convince the landowner that this was a more suitable option, and it took a lot of work to get here, but this is what we're presenting tonight. It's single-family residential homes consistent with the standards and the policies of the cottage home requirements Post-Fall City Code. So access and utilities, we are proposing, due to the constraints of the site, topographic constraints, and just the irregular shape of the property, a private road called Montgomery Lane to extend from the cul-de-sac on Montgomery Place through to the development to our open space, which is located on the west side of the property. The open space areas were selected to buffer this property from the school zone, from the school area, the school property, to provide that additional buffer for the residences that will be in this community here, a small little community. The water will be provided by the City of Post Falls, sanitary sewer provided by the City of Post Falls, and all of the existing dry utilities we need to serve this development for power, gas, and comm are all available in the adjacent right-of-way. Typical street section, I know this came up earlier about parking on the street. This is a typical street section that we've worked with staff to develop. It's a travel way that meets the minimum requirements for ingress egress. It's bordered by a curb on both sides, and it has a sidewalk that is separated vertically from the vehicle travelway, and that provides our pedestrian access in and out, consistent with the private road standard requirements. So this is a kind of a picture of the overall project. The reason we included the Celtice Elementary property in here, and I think this was a question you had, Mr. Schreiber, was the school district has granted our client the ability to extend this water line from Chase Road through the development to tie into the existing 4-inch steel line that's located in Montgomery Place. This will provide adequate fire suppression for the development and hopefully support fire suppression for those on Montgomery Place. This will also provide a secondary means of ingress-egress for emergency vehicles in the event of an emergency, which is a condition that we worked with Kootenai Fire and Rescue on to make sure we had that secondary means of access. In addition to this, my client will be working with the school district to completely repair the dilapidated parking lot that's located on the south side of Celtice Elementary in exchange for this easement. So it's a win-win, I think, in the community, and it took a lot of work with the school board to make this happen. Typical lot layout, I think we can zoom in and look at the open space. So if you see this little hatch here, this is your dedicated open space, minimum 12-foot dimension requirement. This happens to be on the south side of what we're calling Montgomery Lane. Provided open space that'll back up to the future trail that will take over for the existing very minimally used railroad that traverses the south side of this property. The driveway dimensions are 14 by 20. We've played with the increased dimensions in our other development that the city approved called the ARC. We even met staff on site to look over these driveway dimensions, and we are a fan of the 14 by 20 driveways, and that's from the back of sidewalk, again, to provide, or the back of curb to provide that separation so vehicles aren't parked in the street. But We even reduced in the field a couple of driveway sections that were significantly larger that impacted the front end, had an impact to the front of the homes. And so increasing this driveway would require the lots to be increased and potentially impact the intent and the beautification that we're trying to create with this natural open space and landscaping. I just messed it up, Justin.
So really quick with the driveways.
Yes, sir.
Is it 20
So-
feet on the side with the sidewalk also?
Correct, and I'll get to that one here next here, as you're looking at it here.
So the 20 would include the sidewalk?
No.
No, 20 feet is actually on that particular side, sorry, Mr. Kimball, is from the property line, so it is behind the sidewalk. So it'll actually be 20 and a half feet behind the sidewalk, so 24 and a half feet from the back of curb.
Okay.
So, and I think we're generally fairly sensitive. We understand that, 2 parking stalls per home plus the 5% or 0.25 per unit is the code, right?
Correct.
And in small homes, generally a single car garage isn't used as a single car garage. It's more of a storage area. And I understand that there's a width requirement, right? So the maximum percentage. I think an additional 2 feet would give you 2 cars parked out front on concrete. And
On concrete.
To 16.
2 feet away, yeah,
To 16.
To 16. Get you two cars out front on concrete versus a tire on the grass.
And that could be addressed at the time of lot plan for the cottage homes.
Right, I guess would it be all right if we I would like you to consider and think about this if we required a 16-foot wide driveway, leaving the lot's widths the same. So I recognize that there's this percentage thing, but it's also, we haven't done too many of these cottage development things, and so working through the fine details is something that, if 2 feet and seems to make a little bit of sense here.
And that's
How wide are you at the arc?
15 to 16. We did actually go 15, I think, was it 15? At the arc on the driveways, 14? It is, I'm sorry, the driveway, the throat of the driveway was at 15, so 14 on the driveway.
Okay.
At the arc. And we do have 2 vehicles parked, and I have photos of that coming up in there as well, at 14 feet. So.
Okay.
And then just to rehash, just to make sure everybody understood, the 20-foot dimension on the north side of the street is proposed from the lot line, which is behind the sidewalk. So again, you have roughly 24 and a half feet to the back of the rolled curb in this area. So we have applied for a mass grading permit to elevate this property to ensure the gravity sewer can be extended to the city's existing sewer infrastructure located in Montgomery Place. That does a couple of things for this property. It balances this site out and allows for more of a uniform development rather than a topographically varying lot, potential stormwater management issue on your own individual lot. It was our client's intent to make this a more manageable site. And so it does add cost to the development, but it is something that makes it more feasible for a private development like this. Here's a kind of a rendering of what we have, we used as our concept to start the ARC project, and we're now incorporating this into the McKinley Meadows project. These are our typical cottage homes that we're building right now at the ARC, and just a couple of different renderings, what they look like. Each of them have their own unique frontage, their looks, their pitches, their roofs, their amenities, their landscaping. They're all unique as required by code. And then you have I guess I don't have the picture of the 2 cars in the driveway, Ray, I'm sorry. But this is a photo of the cottage homes that we've started to build at the ARC right now, which have been a huge success. I think we're up to 28 sold so far. So it is a huge success in the city. McKinley Meadows, again, our common space and amenities at the Arc. If you'd like to, we have constructed a gazebo in our open space, and my client has worked tirelessly to make improvements to not just the open space, but the landscaping and the frontage, implementing quite the monument to mailboxes that has been the talk of USPS, I would say. So we made it through that debacle there, and it looks beautiful. And this is kind of a view of what the landscaping would look like on this private street section and in our private open space where, again, you've got your sport court opportunities. You've got the gazebo. We like the gazebo. We feel like it's a good fit. Provides for birthday areas, et cetera, adjacent to your home. And which is why we're in full support of taking this route instead of just utilizing the PUD to have 6,500 square foot lots or 6,477 square foot lots throughout this development. We wanted to provide something that wasn't just homes, it was landscape buffers from the neighbors and landscape buffers from the schools, and that can be owned and maintained by the association. So again, I won't run through the criteria, and I realize that I have them backwards in here, so I apologize. So as staff mentioned, Justin did a great job on the staff report. Just going through the review criteria for the subdivision, the PUD, and the special use permit. As they mentioned, we are consistent with the goals and policies. We're consistent with the requirements for open space parking, et cetera, and we provided sufficient rights of way for the development and the extension of the easement, the utilities through easements that we've obtained through offsite improvements that we are obligated to complete. So I will quickly address the easement through the school property that you mentioned. That will be a document that gets recorded prior to the construction of the project and prior to the plat. So a recorded instrument number will be stated on the plat that shows that easement. And so we have worked with our attorney and the school district's attorney to prepare an agreement to complete this work, and also an agreement for the city to own and operate and maintain a water line, and then an agreement for emergency ingress egress, not just for our development, but for those who live on Montgomery Place and in that area, to provide that secondary means of access for our emergency services. And Mr. Kimball, I also tried to implement some additional parking in the open space, and due to the PUD requirements, it was a difficult feat to try to implement that. In one space just wasn't enough, and so we kiboshed that deal in order to meet the PUD requirement. And then regarding, let me go back here real quick. Mr. Kimball brought up the 5-foot access to the future. Let me go back one more, sorry. So it is our goal, this access to the future railroad trail was a conversation that took place after the submittal. And so it is our intent to make that either through an easement or through the extension of the open space to the adjacent right-of-way to provide that future access from the development to the railroad right-of-way. At this time, a fence will be constructed all the way through, but once that trail's approved and built, that will be the option for pedestrian access through that area. And I will stand for questions.
Questions?
Well, I do have a question on your discussion with Ray about the driveways. Do I understand you're not open to extending the driveway so they're a true two-car driveway?
Yeah, I think we can accommodate it. I think it works. We need to be creative on how we put that together, not trying to ruin the aesthetics of what we've built, but I think a 16-foot wide driveway would be more than sufficient to provide for 2 cars, and we could increase the driveway width 1 foot on each side of the 14 right now.
Thank you.
You bet.
Other questions? I would just echo what other fellow commission members has said about the driveway. I think that is a good idea. Like Mr. Campbell said, a lot of people, garages are for the toys and storage unit or storage stuff. Couple other questions that I'm going to ask just because I know they're going to come up later. There was a letter in our packet talking about flooding in this area. Do you feel the mass grading is going to take care of whatever issue that is? I know it states that, I guess the HOA talked to Mr. Anderson at some point. I don't know if you were aware of any of those conversations.
No floodings occurred, to my knowledge, and on our property. I think the flooding in the letter was referencing a certain driveway on Montgomery Place, and that appears to be a city street issue with the existing stormwater there. Our entire development will contain and treat and discharge through infiltration our stormwater. So our project won't impact Montgomery Place with respect to stormwater flows or volumes. That capacity will be strictly remaining from that what's ever existing today on Montgomery Place.
Gotcha.
If I'm reading the contours right, everything is pretty much downhill of the cul-de-sac, right?
Correct. Yep. Correct. And our site will be elevated, but we still have roughly a 3% average gradient into the property from the back of sidewalk. And speaking of back of sidewalk, we do plan to, mailboxes usually come up. We do plan to construct our CBU, our cluster mailbox location, on Montgomery Place, so that is a requirement by USPS. They can't enter a private road. So we will modify the sidewalk around that mailbox area on the frontage, but just in case that does come up. So.
Fair enough. This has been a topic recently with other developments. The HOA, it seems like this has been something that's been built there, and even this this lot was here for a long time ago. This is going to be a separate HOA, totally and distinct of the other one, so there's no overlap at all?
To my knowledge, I don't believe there was a governing HOA on Montgomery, on Cherry Edition. There were CC&Rs, but no, those have been vacated.
Sure.
We will have our own HOA that does not affect any lots that front Montgomery except for the existing house that is a part of this development, which will be exempt from some of the requirements in the HOA just due to its different composite makeup, I guess,
Sure.
if you look at it, yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's all I had. Any other questions? All righty. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Public comment? All right, not wishing to speak in opposition. Paul King, I'm concerned about the traffic. We already have a school bus throughout the day. We have school buses throughout the day. Not wishing to speak in opposition. Sharon King, we are against having this development so close because of the traffic. And just for anybody that hasn't been to one of these comments, as we go through these comments, and if you're going to speak, that's awesome. Then the applicant will have time to come back and rebut any comments. There's not a back and forth, not a Q&A at this time, but the applicant will have time to address any comments that you do have, just so you guys are aware. Not wishing to speak in opposition, Merle Zeller. Main connection is increased traffic. Main concern is increased traffic on Montgomery Place. Wishing to speak in opposition, Anna Spooner. Just name for the record, and you have 4 minutes. I believe the timer's right there. All right.
Hi, my name is Anna Spooner. We live on just a house over from this new development. I am a mother of 9 with number 10 coming in this year, and I've really enjoyed living on this street. I know basically all my neighbors. It's a very quiet, very safe street that I have felt that I've had the privilege to raise all my kids there. And adding 18 cars that are going to be coming and going all the day is going to make the street less safe for my kiddos. And I oppose the development for safety concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak In opposition, Matt, is it Farr? Just, hello, just name for the record.
Matt Farr. About 2 months ago, the neighbor, Shane Anderson, came to me and informed me that he is selling the property at the end of Montgomery Place. He told me that I needed to sign a thing removing the CCNRs. I was not at the time aware of the CCNRs. He said if I did not sign a thing removing the CCNRs, that I would be roped into the HOA and forced to pay for the HOA at the new development. I said I don't believe that's how that works. He came back to me a little while later and told me that the developer would sue me if I did not sign a thing removing the CCNRs. I told him the developer is welcome to try and sue me, but if that is the way the developer is going to play, I don't want them in my community, much less my neighborhood. I believe the developer is making money off of the other people in the community. Their homes will be devalued while this developer makes money. I personally am not satisfied with the traffic. I moved onto that street because it's a dead-end cul-de-sac. It's a very quiet street. And adding 17 more homes would more than double the traffic. There's currently 14 homes on Montgomery Place. I'm also not satisfied that the CCNRs have been removed. If you look back at the original establishment, there is designated lot sizes for that community. And there is also designated building size for that community and distance from roadway and everything else in the original CCNRs. I've been shown nothing to say that the CCNRs are not still in effect, and I know that isn't exactly part of the Planning and Zoning Commission, but it is part of the original development and original intent of the development. All that's to say is I'm very much against this, and thank you very much for your time and allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Vanessa Farr.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Farr. I live on Montgomery. My husband's Matthew Farr, so I just want to echo and ditto what he said as well. With the traffic and parking lowering our home values, we moved onto that street for the same as some others have said, because it's on a cul-de-sac, it's quiet, and more than doubling the houses on that street would impact our home values and the quiet on our neighborhood. And so also just, I'm pretty sure I know the guy that presented. I mean, they both did a great job. They don't live on our street. I mean, boots on the ground. I just want to speak from our experience of living there. So the water, we already have decreased pressure. I can't water my lawn when my neighbor is watering her lawn because my pressure drops. Like, it doesn't even cover a portion enough to keep both of ours on. So that is a concern of mine. I'm a big gardener, so that's top of my list. And then also just the construction noise and dust from constructing that development, I think is going to be a hindrance. And then I'm not even going to try to pretend that I know everything that was said during the presentations, but I was a little confused on the emergency responders, how they're going to get back in there and get out, because there's an access gate, but then they were saying that they have to use that little 3-point turnabout. I don't know, it just seems like a concern for them getting in and out. And then the trash pickup, the same thing. Currently, the way it works is they go down one side to pick up trash, turn around in the cul-de-sac and they're picking up as they're going around and coming back out. It's very easy. I just don't see that, based on the current plans, how they would get in and out of the proposed development easily. And then I know there's been concern too of people signing the CCNRs away under duress, fear of lawsuit, or not wanting to be under the new HOAs. So and again, I know that other people have said that the CCNRs is not part of this, but it has an impact on whether they're in place or not, as to whether or not this development goes in as it's being proposed. And so I think that's a huge concern if signatures have been gotten under distress and not knowing or not understanding what they were signing. because comparing stories of what our family was told versus other people have been told, it's different or tweaked depending on what bend, how he wanted to get signatures from specific people in our neighborhood. And I guess my last point too is if the CC&Rs have been gotten rid of, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't go bigger. Like, dream big. Like, if the CC&Rs are gone, like, why are you putting in these tiny little homes that are gonna devalue the properties around them? I mean, you could have jumped up anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Glenn Douglas.
Hi, my name is Glenn Douglas. I live at 303 Montgomery Place. I've been there 43 years. Originally bought the home because of the value and the fact that it was a cul-de-sac street. I had elementary school children, and that was a big factor for me to move to that location. There's several families currently on the street with children too, and I now, 43 years later, have grandchildren that come over quite often and playing in the street. So I feel it is definitely going to be a traffic flow problem that becomes a real issue. Something I just thought of too, to go back to the plan that he had here for their Montgomery Lane. I don't know, I couldn't hear if there's going to be any street parking on that development, but if there was, how wide would the actual access be if there was one or two cars parked in front of any of these houses that are proposed? So that would be a question also about traffic flow. Excuse me. Concerning the definition of the zoning district and the PUD description, these homes are not following the same standard as all the other homes in the neighborhood with similar yards and landscaping, which I think was mentioned before would also devalue our homes, which were bought under no pretense of something else going in that might devalue it years down the road with increased traffic and other problems that it could bring. Another point that I might mention too is it does not follow the standards for, quote, in the definition, benefits to the community, including open space, heightened site design, and compatibility with the surrounding uses. To me, that doesn't conform with how the rest of our neighborhood looks. So that raises a problem with the value of my property also. And the fact that hardly any yards, we all have yards we try to take care of. This definitely would not be the same look as what we have already. I'd also question if this project provides, quote, internal traffic circulation, pedestrian and bicycle circulation, open space, landscaping, and other features necessary to create an effective and attractive development. I'm just looking at that, I don't know if that would conform to what this says for our neighborhood. This looks like a dead-end street with very little turnaround space at the end. And to me, the only guy that's going to benefit is the guy on the end because he won't have any traffic. So he'd probably be the happiest guy on the whole street, including our old neighborhood. In closing, I might mention there's 13 homes currently on our street. 7 are on the north side. I'm speaking of Montgomery Place. So there's 7 on the north side of the street. There's 5 on the south side and 1 at the west end, which is the home that has this 17 houses proposed to be built on. And I might add that my neighbor mentioned that our original covenant says that these lots were developed with the intent of one single-family home. And it does say at a minimum size, but also they could be larger. This lot, as I've always known for the time that I've lived there, was an odd size and sold the way it was because of the shape of that back part of the lot, tapering down to a triangle. The open space that they propose, I don't know if my grandkids would even be allowed to go down there if there's what I kind of see as leftovers of the property they cut up, or what they're calling open space. So I don't know if that's the proper thing to do, but that's my opinion on that. So in closing, I might just say that at the end of the day, if this goes through, we still only have one way in and one way out. So unfortunately, I'm the one that's closest to the stop sign at the end of the cul-de-sac street. So I would probably see the maximum amount of traffic, which I'm not happy about. But thank you.
Thank you. In opposition, wishing to speak, Miles, is it Derlin? Devlin?
Miles Devlin. And that was like listening to two lawyers debating for a while, especially when you know nothing about zoning and developing. I have a concern, you know, when he talked about the traffic increase, I think it was 200 vehicles per day going in and out of Montgomery Place. That's with 13 homes. You add 18 more homes to that, that number that he said would go up to 300 and 350. It would go well beyond 400 vehicles up and down that street every day. 400. You know, so I don't know where he got that number from. I don't even know how he came about. Did he have a drone above watching the, you know, I don't know. But my concern is I don't really oppose them building houses back there. I'm opposed to the size of the houses and the amount of the houses back there. If it was originally zoned for 9 houses, and I think that's what it was originally zoned for, I would be okay with that, to be honest with you. But trying to squeeze all these little houses into this little place under the guise of affordability, the problem isn't just the houses being at the cost that they are, it's the interest rates where they're at. So a lot of these kids, my daughter bought a house last year, she pays $2,700 a month. That's not going to be any different with these houses at $400. Most people can't, the cost of salaries and all that aren't what's the right word, aren't keeping up with the cost of living. So how are these people really going to afford that stuff, you know? So like I said, I'm not opposed to building to 9 homes going on back there. I'm really not. But I am opposed to 18 homes going back there, or 17 homes going back there plus the 1, because it does increase the traffic. It does increase risks to the people that are already there that have to deal with that traffic going in. I'm right next to Glen, you know, so, you know, like I said, I'm not against the 9 homes going in. But I think there can be a better way to do this without really making everybody kind of satisfied at the end of the day. You know, all my neighbors, and then, you know, the builder, the applicant, is that what you call him? So I appreciate your time, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Noah Stam.
Noah Stam. Good evening, Commissioners, Chair. Of course, I'm the developer, the builder. I'm in favor, of course, because it's my development. It's my pride and joy. This project, of course, started at the ARC development, which I know you guys might be familiar with. We've had great success out there. I just want to take a couple seconds and kind of like explain the experience that I've had selling my product out at the ARC on these cottage homes. The same style that we're putting here at McKinley, we're currently selling at the ARC. And it has been the coolest thing ever to do the final walkthrough with these clients buying my products. I mean, they're 25 years old to 30 years old, just started a family, just got married. They can finally buy a house. Yes, it's not your perfect end-all house, but We've all probably got kids in this room. We've got grandkids. Of course, they need places to live. And I'm telling you, the satisfaction that this development brings me is incredible. Purely based on my walkthroughs with the clients I've already sold. I mean, we have people coming out of mom and dad's basement that just have a 6-month-old baby, but they can finally buy one of these houses. We have people in the neighborhood paying $1,800 a month to $2,200 a month to own their own home. These houses are all below $400,000, so that's really a big threshold, in today's economy is, hey, we have so many people that are pre-approved, but as soon as you go over $400,000, it really cuts out so many people. So that's what we've kind of stuck to at the ARC, and we've sold out of this neighborhood, and we want to do the next one to keep these families coming into Post Falls. But I mean, from mom and dad's basement to 3 stories up in an apartment to finally buying their first home, I mean, there has to be a stepping stone in this community, and that's truly what I'm passionate about doing. I'm not making as much money as these big builders because these price points of these houses are a lot less. So it really comes down to, I want to help my friends buy houses in this community, and then it tenfolded. It's not just my friends that need houses. It's our staff. It's our police officers. It's our nurses. I mean, you name it, they need a place to buy, and it's becoming harder and harder. So really what I'm trying to do between the ARC and McKinley Meadows and hopefully future projects is really to key in on this cottage home because it's the most affordable way to get these people into housing. And I know there's a lot of pushback, but it needs to happen, and I promise, like I said, I'd encourage anyone in the audience to go out to the ARC, drive through the neighborhood. We really try to, I guess we pride ourselves on creating a gorgeous neighborhood. Go drive out there, look at the landscaping, look at the parks that we put in, look at the houses. I mean, they're different. This isn't your typical tract home neighborhood. They truly are gorgeous products, and I think they're truly needed. So that's all I have. Of course, I'm in favor, strictly just, based on the affordability and getting people, out of rentals and building, that morale for the next generation. So I appreciate you guys' time, and thanks.
All right, thank you. Wishing to speak, didn't mark whether it's in opposition or in favor. Joanne Anglin.
Hi, I'm Joanne Anglin. I'm the mom of the gal who wrote the letter about her flooded driveway. And with my 2 eyes, when they were very young, saw massive flooding in that area. It's a catch basin, and the drainage goes there. So I talked with my grandson today about it, and he, for years, put in water and sewer lines and did the site development for water drainage and grassy swales. And I didn't see any grassy swales on this. And I thought that was a city mandated thing that you had to have a grassy swale, because I have a friend who lived down the street on First, and she wanted to put a shop in her backyard, and she couldn't unless she put a full grassy swale in her front yard. So why would this be exempt from a city thing that you have to have a grassy swale? I didn't see any areas where it said it had drain basins going in. The water will come, and if they fill up the pit, the water that normally comes in there, where's it going to go? Is it going to go back onto Montgomery Place, or is one of the other homeowners in the area going to get flooded? And I know it's flooded more than the one time I saw it. And it was a pond. It was a big pond back there. And I'm sorry you haven't seen it, but it is. And we've had some really dry years. It only takes one volcano in the northern hemisphere to bring us back to a super rainy, snowy time in our area. When Mount St. Helens went up, boy, what a winter we had. And when Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines blew, we had a really good winter. So we're not very far away from having another one. So where's the water going to go? I don't see any mention that this water that naturally is going to go there, where's it going to go? Is somebody else going to get flooded because of this? So I have another thing too. I was on planning and zoning many years ago, and this same kind of thing came before us. And I was instrumental in getting it denied because of the water situation. And those were homes and lot sizes that fit in with the CC&Rs of the development. Also, I'm in this development, 5 spaces, 17 houses. Now, let's say Susie's 1 year old and they're having a birthday party, and Billy down the street's turning 5 the same day. So where are the cars gonna go with only 5 spaces? They're gonna go down to Montgomery Place. And so let's say my daughter's having a family reunion get-together and because company has come up from out of state, and we're trying to have parking space. And it's all taken up by the people at the end of the street because they didn't have enough parking. I mean, this is not well thought out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. In opposition, didn't mark wishing to speak or not. Kenneth Ross.
You have to leave.
Okay, I will just read what he wrote down then. This is too many residents for the amount of land. It will also increase traffic tremendously. Wishing to speak in opposition, Candace Frank. Yeah, we have it in our packet.
Okay, so my name is Candace Frank. I live at 307 Montgomery Place. I have lived there for 36 years, and it has flooded down in that area 5 times. 3 of those times, the house that is existing there, the basement flooded, and they got black mold. 3 different times. And I've witnessed it, I have seen it. I am concerned about our property value. I have a 1/3 of an acre lot. The people next to me have an acre lot. The 2 people next to me have a 1/3 of an acre lot. So I'm very concerned at what this is going to do to the property value of my house. And the traffic. So we've got 17 houses, 2 cars per house. That's 34 cars. Now, that's just one way. Now they're coming home. There's another 34. So now we have 68 cars coming down. We have 4 retired people who live on our street. We maybe, at the most, get 40 people down our street, up and down all day long. And that's not counting them going to the grocery store, any kids' sports, and everything else. Now you've increased our traffic even more. I'm not in favor of the PUD. I bought the house because it was on a cul-de-sac. It was a quiet neighborhood. When my kids were growing up, there were 18 kids down there. And the original CCRs, this is part of it. There is another one that had amendments to it. And when Shane came to me, he told me that we'd be part of the HOA and that I was going to get fined or have to tear down my shop. And I told him that was not going to happen. Several people that I have talked to, and he told me 8 or 9 houses. There's other people he has told 4 or 5 houses. And then there's other people he told 9 or 10 houses. Each story that I talked with the neighbors was different to every single person. He talked these people into signing because he told us that we would be part of an HOA if we did not get rid of the CCRs. And he's not here to even defend himself. My driveway approach has always flooded. It floods into my driveway and down into my garage. Granted, we haven't had snow, but in 2008, when Montgomery Rose tried to go in, we had 4 feet of snow in 4 days. It flooded. And if it snows like this is North Idaho. Every winter is different. And I'm very concerned with the fact that he's going to raise it up in the back. And what's going to happen to the house that's existing there? Because it's already flooded 3 times. And I'm totally not in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Asia Sizemore.
Hello, I'm Asa Sizemore. I live at 829 North Compton Street, so just on the side of Montgomery Street there. And kind of the same thing. The gentleman, Shane, he came to me and with some paperwork, presented it to me, and kind of told me the same thing. If you don't sign this stuff, you're going to be in an HOA. This protects you out of an HOA. And I looked at it and I told myself, well, this kind of looks like you're going to try to build, stuff down there. He said, no, sir, we're only going to build 3 houses down there, 3 to 4 houses. I've talked to the developer already. You need to sign this. This is going to protect you from an HOA. Basically, he came and lied to me. My neighbor, Cody Risenauer, he has 4 or 5 kids at his house, so he couldn't make it. He told the same exact thing to him, and as well as my neighbor next to me. So we were all told a lie, basically, to try to get us down there to sign something, and I just don't think that that was right. And by talking to everybody, if everybody knew what was actually happening back there, 17 houses, you can see the amount of people that showed up here, and I know 3 or 4 that would like to have came but couldn't come today. No one would have signed this. No one wanted 17 houses down there. But we were sold a lie that, like you said, one HOA getting sued, there's only going to be 3 or 4 houses down there. Every single person was told something different. And I feel like if we were basically would have been honest in the beginning and they would have been truthful, none of these signatures would have even happened. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Jeff Gilbertson.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Gilbertson. I live at 308 West Montgomery Place. I moved there about a decade ago. I have 2 kids that I've raised there, and they've gone through the public school system here. And I moved to that home because of the cul-de-sac and because of the safety and security that afforded my kids. Just on our street right now, there's 24 kids, ranging in age from newborn. Anna spoke earlier. She's got another one on the way, all the way up to about 18. So there is a real it's a real close-knit, tight community. And we get together a couple times a year. We utilize the cul-de-sac for 4th of July. There's 70 or 80 people that get together for that. And it's a cool, old school Americana feel that this development would impact. Let me see what else I wanted to mention here. Commissioner Kimball mentioned or alluded to it earlier, but he oversaw the last time that this was up for discussion, this development of this property, and that was 8 or 9 parcels at that point. That makes a lot more sense. It's more, it coincides better with the size of the lots that it currently exists, and so it's more in alignment with that. I really think what you do is noble. There's a definite need for smaller or lower income housing in this area. There's no question about it. What people make and what the housing costs is not in alignment. I just don't think what's proposed is, for this area, it makes a lot of sense. It goes kind of against what currently exists. And that's just my opinion. All of this is, of course. But I just, 8 or 9 properties down there, that makes sense. As I said, it coincides with what's there. I think that would be more in alignment with our current residential area, and I think that's would be in the best interest of the community and at large. So anyway, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition to Dana or Dora Williamson? Okay. Against. Okay. No. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Mr. MacArthur, rebuttal?
My foot's asleep. Look at that. Getting old. Again, Scott MacArthur, MacArthur Engineering. Just want to run down the list, rebuttal here. Forgive me. The Kings, concerned about traffic and buses. We live next to, this property's next to 2 schools. I don't live there. I was born on a similar cul-de-sac street. This property is adjacent to 2 schools, a middle school and an elementary school, and there is a bus route that uses Cherry Lane through the Celtice Elementary property and out to Chase. So that is, that's going to happen in that area. That happens all over the city. So traffic is kind of a big topic. Yes, again, it will increase traffic. That happens with all developments in our area, especially infill developments. It is a shock to people when it occurs. It isn't going to meet or exceed, the threshold that the city allows on a typical public street where people do park their cars and they do use their driveways and they do gather for public events and, again, guilty. Fireworks, I grew up with 4 firemen on my cul-de-sac street off 20th Avenue, and we would have the best fireworks show in town, I guarantee it. So the safety concerns, we're talking about a private street that'll exit into a cul-de-sac that has a concrete approach. It's not a direct through, so there is a transition and grade from the private street to the cul-de-sac, so we don't anticipate high speeds at that level exiting the private street or those entering the private street just for safety of those in this community. My client and I can't speak for what the landowner told the neighbors. It is true, there are CC&Rs from 1955 that do have stipulations. The city doesn't govern CC&Rs. That is a civil matter, and those CC&Rs have since been vacated, whatever pretense that was done. But I can positively say that I have observed more than the majority of those homeowners are in violation of those CC&Rs in one way or another. And a sin is a sin is a sin. So if you're opposed to a density in this area that we're proposing, which is consistent, relatively close, with the approval of a PUD, it's consistent with R1 zoning, 6,500 square foot lots, then you do have an issue with your shop. You do have an issue with parking trailers. You do have an issue with secondary structures. You do have an issue with your pool. You do have an issue with a plethora of items that are listed in those CC&Rs. And so it's unfortunate that those weren't well known, but the HOA that Mr. Anderson, I believe, was speaking of was an HOA that would be created just for those on Montgomery Place in the Cherry Edition and on Compton, those 26 lots in Montgomery Place, again on Compton, not this HOA, which will be governing itself in McKinley Meadows. That is a separate HOA. So those 1955 CC&Rs are now revoked, have been abolished, and this project is consistent as we presented with the approval of a special use permit and a planned unit development. Home values, what we've seen with the home values, and I'm not an economist, I don't look at economic impact statements, but we've seen home values increase with the implementation of a well-crafted product. We're not talking about a low-income house. We're talking about a well-crafted product, modern product that will be buffered by the topographic elevation differences from Montgomery Place to this property, despite the mass grading we are performing. So we have an existing home and a large lot that are located on the east side of our property and through a private street and the curvature of our road. The majority of this development should be buffered from that, the view of those living on Montgomery Place. And the alternative is townhomes, apartments, those types of requests coming before you, which would have higher densities and higher traffic, and people who aren't homeowners and who don't care about your streets and your neighborhood. You're bringing in families into these communities. You're not bringing in, low-income housing that's being subsidized. You're bringing in families who are purchasing properties as a stepping stone to buy a house in the future and live in our community and work in our community. Some of these people will be friends with some of those opposed to this development tonight, I guarantee it. Part of this development too is our client's dedicating a 20-foot easement over the sewer. This wasn't really brought up, but I wanted to mention this for Mr. Paulus' sake. Currently, there's a city sewer line that runs through this Eltis Elementary property and through this property and out to Montgomery Place. That sewer line, that infrastructure does not live within an easement that's granted to the city. Therefore, the city has no ability to operate and maintain. I'm sure there's a legal case for that, but I wanted to see him shake his head. So, but this development will dedicate an easement and provide the access needed to maintain that sewer system, that sewer infrastructure to the manholes there. It's unfortunate. One of the homeowners, he's a business owner in this area, he mentioned that these homes will not be in kind with the homes that exist on Montgomery Place. And it's really, the cool thing about being a homeowner is you can do whatever you want to your house. Every homeowner in this neighborhood could go and change their siding. They could apply for a permit to change the roof. They could add additions. They can do what they want to do. That's the cool thing. These homes that we're proposing, yes, they are more modern and they do look different, but they are a product that is up and coming in this community, and they are desired. And I feel like they'll increase the values for those homes in this Cherry edition of Post Falls. So Mr. Devlin brought up a great point that this project was previously approved for 9 lots. The infrastructure costs alone at that time in 2009 were so significant that that project was never built. Fast forward to a more expensive time, and you're looking at increased costs for everywhere you turn, from materials to labor. The costs have increased. The financing cost to just finance a home, to create a mortgage. So at 17 cottage homes, this project barely pencils. It pencils enough to make it work, but it barely pencils. It's not significant. It's not like this is the retirement plan for Mr. Stam. This is a project for Mr. Stam to bring obtainable housing here for our friends and our family and our children to one day have a home ownership. So, and I think it's a beautiful product. Regarding the flooding, yes, the existing home on the property does have a daylight basement. And if you look at stormwater management, we did locate a large collective stormwater swale on the property with precast drainage structures that will outlet the stormwater through infiltration. We live in a gravel pit. This area is no different. The flooding that potentially occurred on this property that I did not witness, nor have I received any knowledge of, most likely occurred because of what we discovered when we performed test pit excavation, and we found that there were compacted layers of topsoil and material below the travelway, and that's probably what flooded. Years and years of buildup of debris and unsuitable organic materials may have caused that. I can't tell you, but what we are designing for is more than substantial stormwater management and drainage conveyance system. We have catch basins, storm piping, and precast drainage structures to allow for the overflow during larger storm events. And again, I know Mr. Anderson had conversations that was not a part of my client, my firm, completely outside of our knowledge. So this was a surprise to us tonight. So it wasn't the pretense that we purchased this property under. Yeah, I think that addresses all. I'll stand for any questions.
I do have a question on the CCNR thing. Okay, so those 1955 original CCNRs.
Correct.
When were they vacated?
Recently.
So this was after this gentleman went, the homeowner went and told everybody all kinds of different stories to get them to agree to remove it?
And I think the stories may have been misinterpreted, may have been not presented well. I can't speak for this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to do this, okay?
I observed.
Let us talk. Mr. MacArthur, for a
I
second.
reviewed the CCNRs, which were a part of the title commitment that my client purchased. The CCNRs did stipulate various things, and I have those CCNRs here tonight. Again, the city of Post Falls does not govern CCNRs. Whatever Mr. Anderson said to any of the neighbors is not something my firm would have represented, nor my client. That was beyond our control. The truth of the matter is, again, more than the majority of these lot owners are in violation of those CCNRs.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to understand here is, you wouldn't have bought that, your client wouldn't have bought that property to build these on if those CCNRs had been there, because it wouldn't have been allowed, right?
It would have been a civil matter that wouldn't have been permitted, would have been contested. And I'm not sure, from a legal standpoint, I'm not sure how that works, so I'll defer to the city council, or city
I'm just,
legal counsel. But it would not have been purchased, it would not have been
that's
proposed.
what I mean, so I'm just, he
correct.
wanted to sell the property, so he had, I'm
Right.
an ulterior
No,
motive to go
yeah.
and tell whatever
Yeah.
homeowner.
I think what he may have been, after talking to his legal counsel, he may have been stating that an HOA could be formed for Cherry Place, and that everybody in violation of those CCNRs would have been fined or held liable, whatever the stipulation of requirements would be to bring them into conformance with those CCNRs. I don't know. But yeah, I can honestly say that I'm surprised at what I'm hearing tonight, and we are consistent. Again, we could propose the 17 lots in this development and be in conformance with the R1 zoning and request a PUD and not have open space and not have the buffers and the amenities. But with the PUD comes the additional, we didn't even utilize the entire bonus density. As one lady mentioned, she's unopposed, but she's like, why not dream bigger? Well, that's not what we want. We picked a house that we have seen great success with in other projects, and we're bringing that to this community, and the various configurations of that home that meet the requirement for no two homes adjacent to one another will be the same. That was our goal. Again, we know we could probably shrink these lots down, 2,400 square foot minimum for cottage homes. We're almost 1,000 square feet, or we are 1,000 square feet minimum greater than that minimum requirement for cottage homes. So I feel like we're trying to compromise and provide a great product, not just slam a density into something that we feel, again, born and raised here on a cul-de-sac street. We feel this is a great product in a great desired location that's adjacent to a school and easy access to amenities and future pedestrian walkways.
Mr. MacArthur, really quick, I want to ask our attorney a quick question, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but are the 1950 CCNRs, are they relevant at all to our decision tonight?
My understanding is they're vacated. So that seems to be the most current information. So the entitlements are when you purchase a property or anything else, if those change or anything else. So the short answer is no.
Okay.
We can speculate on all sorts of things and everything else. We also have to go by our code for our standards of our review criteria. So while it is background and it may inform other parts of your decision, it's not a criteria upon which we base our consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Easy question.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
There is no street parking on Montgomery Lane?
Correct. It's a private street. The travel width is there. It's just, people might use the public right-of-way of Montgomery Place to park a vehicle. There's, I've lived in communities in this area that did not have sufficient street parking. And I think the addition of this 2 feet to provide, to our driveways, to provide 2 off-street parking spaces in a driveway, in addition to those who may not have all the junk that we collect these days that fills up our garage, they might have 3 parking spaces in each cottage home, potentially. These are a lot of these are first-time home buyers that are coming in. They don't have the stuff that we've all collected for 30 plus years yet. So I anticipate that those garages may be in a different situation than some others, but yeah, I feel that there's more than sufficient parking in this area, and I think the HOA will be able to manage that when it comes to it.
Thank you. Any other questions? All righty, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
All All right, close out the public hearing, and we will look at the review criteria for each of the items in front of us today that we have to use to make the decision tonight.
Thank you, Commissioners. I think it makes sense to start with the special use permit criteria. The special use criteria is basically to decide whether or not the cottage product should be allowed or permitted in the zone. So that'll inform the other decisions that we make moving on, and some of the criteria is duplicated later on, so we can use this as the basis for other decisions as well. So let's start with, this is the citing of the cottage home product in the residential subdivision and for this McKinley proposal 26-3. Number one, whether the implementation of the special use, that is the cottage home, single-family cottage homes, would or would not conform to the purposes of the zoning district.
Well, I think in this case, a cottage home is a single-family residence at R1. The purpose of the applicable zone is single-family residential. So R1 zoning is for single-family residential. So in that regard, it would conform to the purpose of the R1 zone.
Agreed.
Any, Chris, you look perturbed.
Well, I'm looking at the intention of the single-family residential. The R1 zone is intended for one single-family home on one lot of a minimum size or larger, and to permit other accessory uses, et cetera. In the R1 zone, our minimum lot size is 6,500 square feet. So we are modifying that through an SUP, which would allow them to go smaller than that 6,500 square feet.
PUD does
It would be
that.
modified through the PUD, so admittedly, it's confusing. So the modifications will address in the PUD standards. So kind of look at the intent of the product and everything else in the zone without getting too hung up on the dimensional issues, would be my suggestion.
Okay.
And again, I was just asking because you look like you wanted to say something. I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought.
Well, my train of thought could have kept going for hours, so it's a good thing to interrupt me.
All right, let's, number two, criteria is whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use as established by the chapter for the zoning district involved and complies with all of our other regulations of the city and the state. So on this one, this is where we say, yes, it's a special use. Obviously, it's permitted in our land use table with these conditions to meet. But I'll take any other comment on that one.
No, just like we said in criteria A, it's R1, it's allowable outright in other zones, but in R1, it's a special use permit.
And again, with a special use permit, we're allowed to put those conditions to mitigate some of the adverse effects on the development to adjacent neighborhoods, and we can get to those in a minute. But with the special use, we have that extra ability to condition the product. Number three is whether the proposed use will or will not be compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or with the land uses in the vicinity of the proposal.
I think for me, I do have some concern with the transportation here. If it's 200 cars, and I think this was talked about earlier, you're probably going to more than double it. You're upwards of 400. With that being said, not everybody's going to leave for work at the same time. Not everybody's going to come home at the same time. But that is a concern.
So I'm going to speak out of personal experience because I happen to live on a cul-de-sac that has 33 homes on it. And it's a private street, it's narrow. And there is, it's fairly rare to actually cross paths with another car. And we do have kids playing in the street all the time. It's something to, of course, we have to be aware of as neighbors, to drive slow through neighborhoods where there's kids playing. But from a safety standpoint, I don't think my street would be this street would be any less safe than my street.
Your street is very narrow,
It is very narrow.
a lot narrower than this one will be.
I think this is kind of the crux of the struggle that everybody here is having, is welfare of the public. This is a big issue and a big problem at the state level. You know, the legislature's implementing changes to zoning for everybody in the state to try to make infill development and redevelopment more possible, because we have a huge problem in that we don't have enough housing opportunities for young people and old people and middle incomes, and it's a massive problem. And so what's best here, maybe for the welfare of the people that live on that street, may not be what's best for the people that want to have their first house. And it might not be what's best for the city in general, who need people that can, housing for employees and people that work at restaurants. And so who gives on this problem that we have as a state and as a community? It's kind of, everybody would like to fix, everybody likes the idea of young people and families being able to afford a home, but somebody's got to give something. And I think we've, as a city, adopted code for cottage homes to try to create a situation where maybe we can, but it hasn't really been, other than the ARC, I don't really think it's been tried in scale in the city, because it is so difficult to make it work financially. I want the city, I've been pushing for the city to do its part and give. You know, the fees, I think, on this subdivision will be $1 million. I'd like to see the city decrease its fees so that we do something to try to help solve this problem. But I think that welfare of the public is, everybody's going to end up having to give something here to solve this bigger problem. And man, I'd like these people in these houses to have bigger driveways, and I'd like them to have bigger yards and bigger houses, but they can't afford these things. And so I'd like them to have more parking. I don't like the parking at all, but somebody's got to pay for it. And so, and our cottage home code, I don't think it's a great first stab, and we're going to have to work through it. We're going to have to try some things. I think maybe as we do some more cottage homes, maybe we can refine the code where we don't need to have a special use permit and a PUD just to come up with something that's possible. But currently, it's just, you know, this is just somebody trying to come up with something that's possible here to work through this problem. So, I mean, there's a lot of intricacies here, but I think the moral of the story is the welfare of the city and the public in general. It costs everybody some. It costs traffic for everybody, especially people that live in the neighborhood, but the city in general. But we gotta help these people have a home, a place to live.
My concern is you're pushing cottage housing into the R1 zone. And yes, code allows us to do that through the special use permit process, but I don't see that being necessary on any or all R1 lots anywhere in the city. That should be reserved for a specific location, something that has excellent access, something that's backing up to multifamily or something else that would make it more of a buffer, not at the end of a cul-de-sac of single-family residential where you buy into that subdivision and you buy a home in that subdivision and all of a sudden your neighbor says, oh, I'm going to go for a special use permit and totally change the whole nature of our community or our subdivision. I'm extremely concerned with the parking. That's not enough parking. You know, to be at the end of a cul-de-sac with 18 homes and have 5 guest parking spaces, that's crazy. I get it meets code, but the special use permit process allows us to supplement that. So if we were gonna go forward, I think we have to add a whole bunch of parking, and that would kill this anyways, because they couldn't provide it on this lot, at least not with this layout. I'm really concerned about health and welfare and safety overall. You have 18 homes at the end of a cul-de-sac already. Now you're gonna put it at the end of another cul-de-sac that just has a hammerhead at the end. Granted, there's a gate, you can go through that, and I've driven fire trucks through those gates before, because we didn't have the right key at the time. So I understand that, but that hammerhead's not enough for a fire truck, so you're gonna have to go through. It's barely enough for an ambulance. You got 20-foot deep driveways, and I get that that's code again and adequate, but the average half-ton pickup is 20 feet long. Add a hitch on there and you're hanging out over the curb. And that's if you're touching the garage door. That's really, really tight. And how many people do we know that don't have a half-ton? Instead have a 1-ton or a dually or something else. I think this is really stretching, and we're stretching on the SUP, then we're stretching on the PUD, and then we're pushing on the subdivision. So it just feels like we're trying to cut the corner everywhere we can.
I couldn't agree more. It's just that, the alternative is a single-family R1 classic subdivision, and it's not affordable.
Well, I get it. Note that the ARC, I think, is a great project. I like the design. I like the layout. But that's in an R3 zone.
We talk about it when, just outlets, when we talk about where's the traffic flow going, the last 3 or 4 times we've got together on subdivisions, where are we gonna have an issue with that, these connectors coming out on them. With this being the dead end, I think that's the biggest problem I have. If it would've, that I see in it, if it would've connected back out and around the top, if there'd been a purchase of property from the school or a trade or something, to where it connected back out and around a Cherry, around those properties onto that secondary street. If there's another outlet, we're probably not talking about half of these things right now. But with that one dead-end outlet, it really congests the whole idea of that street. And I live on a street that's twice as wide as this thing, and when there's a party, people park up and down that street and stop, and, I don't know how you can stop people from doing that. So.
Can't.
Next.
So Commissioners, I'll note that there was some discussion and debate on number 3, and we'll address that in a minute. Finally, number 4, whether the proposed use will or will not comply with the goals and policies found within the comprehensive plan.
So I'll start with, I think policy 8 supports this with encouraging infill development and redevelopment of underutilized parcels. This is very specifically a underutilized parcel where they're essentially putting 17 homes in the backyard of one existing home. I think policy 15, it meets policy 15 to ensure that there's adequate land available for future housing needs, serving residents of all ages, incomes, and abilities through the provision of diverse housing types and price levels. And I think this is probably the big one there, is that it's price levels and coming up with a diversity of housing types, because we are almost completely homogeneous throughout the most of the city. Even properties that are zoned R2 and R3 have a lot of, in the older part of Post Falls, have a lot of just large single-family houses. And so I think it meets that policy. And then, let's see, I wrote down goal 7 that I don't have right here next to me. Those are just 2 of several that I kind of thought about. I'll let someone else chime in if they'd like.
Yeah, for me, goal 2 kind of jumps out. Call it attainable, affordable, however you like. We do have a housing issue, not only here in the city, in the state, it's a nationwide issue. It was mentioned earlier, interest rates are not helping this at all. This is definitely not low income, because if you're trying to afford a $400,000 house, you're definitely not affording this if you're low income. But it is more affordable than some of the houses, and even the average here in Kootenai County and Post Falls. So I think this type of development does support goal 2 in that matter.
I wrote down policy 8 and I already mentioned it, but to keep costs, to make a project financially feasible. Infill development and redevelopment is the best avenue. And that's why it's been identified and targeted. And that's what this is at its core. It's a little bit of an extreme version of that, but I think that's the most relevant policy.
I'll throw a couple out there. So goal number 3 is maintain and improve Post Falls small town scale, charm, beauty, and aesthetic beauty. I don't know that this meets that. Goal number 5 is keep Post Falls neighborhood safe, vital, and attractive. I'm concerned about that one. Policy number 1, under our policy section, includes maintaining, enhancing resident quality of life, promoting compatible, well-designed development. I'm concerned about that because it's cramming it into the R1 zone. Policy 6 is encourage residential development patterns, housing that faces the street, interconnected grid, or small block street networks, street sections designed for safety, traffic, calming, and aesthetic appeal. I'm not sure if we meet that. Policy 16 is encourage maintenance of housing in safe and sanitary condition. I think we can actually address that in our conditions that we add on when we're talking about an HOA, so I'm not too concerned about that one. Let's see. We can skip policy 23. Policy 26 is maintain and improve continuity of sidewalks, trails, and bicycle paths. Not seeing really any that are going through this project, at least not at this point, the way it's drawn. Policy 27 is improve street connectivity. I don't think we're really doing that. It's improving walkability, public health and safety, transportation efficiency. And then it's not in here specifically, but I would be concerned about backing, especially starter homes that are specifically designed for new families, backing them up to a railroad track. And I know one of the conditions is to provide a 6-foot-high fence constructed along the right-of-way, the BNSF right-of-way. Just not sure, is that adequate? Just a question.
Yeah, it's just that these things have two sides, like most
I know.
things, they have two sides to it. You know, being backed up to the railroad, which this subdivision basically is entirely, not great for young kids, but it's great for affordability because it's not desirable for a lot of people.
Sure.
And so
When I was a student at Celtics Elementary, I loved it when the trains went by.
When you're a
I
student.
thought when I was doing this and they honked their horn, it was for me, not for the crossing, but I know they go through there at Mock Turtle. So, versus, a subdivision like the one that was approved a month or so ago next to the UP main line. And, we had they cruised through there at 45. So, I definitely don't see that drain line. That's probably the least dangerous one. And
it'll probably be a trail before very much longer.
With any luck, right? There's a lot of things to do before that happens, but hopefully it does.
Long range.
It's probably worth noting that Montgomery Place doesn't have sidewalk, I don't think. Oh, you do? You do have sidewalk, okay. All right. So this will have sidewalk that connects to that sidewalk. That's fantastic.
On one side of the street.
On one side, but also, it's like a private, it's a private street, right? And, I mean, overall, the suitability and the scale, and it's walkable to the school, incredibly walkable to the school. I don't know if there will be pedestrian access through that gate or not. I don't know what the school district's going to do or not, but maybe you guys can work that out. But I think as a residential development with walkability, I think that's really important. And that is one of those things that they're providing. I think there's a lot of good, back at the 9 lots of Montgomery Road, one of the reasons that it didn't happen was because it was a pretty crappy design, and I designed it. And I'm saying that it was not good. And, doing R1 housing back there it's so incredibly, they're awkward and weird lots. And I think what they're doing is they're taking the weirdness out of it, putting it in open space, and putting in some nice even, and if you drive by on the freeway and look over at the Arc, they're really attractive houses. They've got nice architecture. They are, they're well landscaped in the front yards. They got small yards, but the front landscaping is really nice. They're attractive. It's so much better than what I envisioned with 9 lots and some, crappy homes back there. I see this as a much improved version of what I came up with 18 years ago.
Commission, so I've got sufficient testimony on these points. I think I would recommend, Justin, can you put up the conditions slide before that I think James had asked for? It's part of your pack. I think you had it in your presentation. So I guess I would recommend we move to deliberation on the decision for the special use permit and then see how that proceeds. Again, these are conditions we can consider in addition to what the staff has recommended or substitute for the staff recommendations that's in the packet.
Yeah, there are 13.
And those are all kind of lumped together.
That was the problem I had with it. I wasn't sure which ones go with.
Well,
the
it'll be one decision ultimately. If it got approved, these are the conditions to meet subdivision code to deal with the PUD. But if we're specifically looking at, and again, we'll try to compartmentalize this a little bit in our minds, should the cottage home product be allowed in this area as a special use? And if it is allowed, are there things that the conditions we can put, like minimizing the adverse impact on the other development? Can we require the extended driveways? These are things that we could put on these conditions and require them to go above and beyond what would technically be allowed.
So do we list these 13 conditions for?
Let's address those 13 conditions later on, but I kind of want to get a feel for whether or not we're even going to get to that point. So
are we not putting conditions on the SUP then? That's what I'm not following.
The conditions can be all together. Let's address the special use permit and any conditions you want on the SUP without looking necessarily at the 13 in the staff report. So the additional ones, like
So
I think
these
we
6
talked
that
about.
are up here.
Yeah, and these aren't conditions. These are like ideas. This is like, okay, you can control the sequence of development. We can require them to shut down construction at 7 o'clock at night to minimize dust and disturbance on the neighbors. We can tweak this or that. So if the special use permit fails, if it does not pass, then that will make the remaining deliberations somewhat moot. So.
Well, I think one of the impacts that we've all at least alluded to or outright expressed is the parking and making sure that that any parking, spillover parking, granted it's a public street, so on-street parking is public parking, but also I'm sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of people out there like my dad, who yell at people who, he gets mad when someone else parks in front of his house. So, that's, so I do think that requiring 2 off-street outside parking stalls per lot, so be it in a 16-foot wide driveway, or in addition to the 5 required additional, will give us the best shot at making sure that spillover parking is attained without, or parking is met without spillover parking.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We need to ensure there's at least 2 cars in the driveway to somehow mitigate the park. I still don't think it'll be enough, but mitigate the overflow parking. Anybody else have any other thoughts on these? Like number 1, impact on other development, and kind of what Mr. Gabbett was talking about, construction. Hopefully they can, that could be a wide-ranging thing, minimizing dust, and I know developers do that already. So I don't know specifically what I could put in there, but hopefully they just do it in general.
I do know that, a 4-inch water main that feeds the existing hydrant at the end of the street is woefully inadequate for any sort of fire flow. So the 8-inch main coming the other direction, connecting to that, will greatly benefit the neighborhood as a whole. And hopefully that, if this is approved, the gal that, and constructed, that the gal that likes to water her garden can do it in conjunction with her neighbors as well. Because it should increase the pressure, or at least increase it'll double the flow. Won't increase the pressure, but it'll double the flow.
Any other deliberation? All right, somebody like to make a motion?
I have a question. When you talk about this and that, filling that, where's the construction entrance going to be on this side? Is it going to be coming in from the backside through the school? Is it going to be coming in, when we talk about minimizing these impacts, they're not going to like 60 dump trucks going down the middle of that street every day while they're waiting for a school bus to turn around. So if we talk about dealing with something like this, are they going to be able to have access to come in from the back of this development and fill forward? Or are they going to come in around the end with the deal off of Cherry Street? Or, the construction side of this is, when you say, look, you don't want to bug the people in the neighborhood, but you're pretty much throwing those 13 houses, or however many there are on that street, 9 houses, right in the middle of a gravel pit for the next 2 months to do that. I mean,
I don't know how you
and
get
I don't
away.
know if we get to even.
I don't think
comment
you
on
can get
that.
away from that in any development
yeah.
anywhere in this. My neighbor took 6 years to build his house. It was not a lot of fun, but I mean, it's just is what it is. And I think the one big reassurance to the folks that live there is if this is developed, they can go look and see with the performance of the design team here and what they've
definitely.
done.
Yeah.
Right. Really, whether or not it's 9 crappy lots or
Doesn't matter,
17 small lots, that question remains, that problem is the same either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Commissioner Flock, since we're not going to reopen the hearing and let the applicant respond, you could craft a condition that says, the applicant will use their best efforts to coordinate and mitigate the traffic impacts or the construction impacts on the city without giving specifics or knowing about it. You could have a condition like that in there, just as a suggestion, if one were so inclined to do so.
Okay.
But I don't
Good to
know.
know.
I don't know if we want to reopen
I
the hearing.
Okay, just good to know.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion.
I move to approve the special use permit SUP 26-3 McKinley Meadows. finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.070, as outlined in our deliberations, subject to the conditions found in the staff report, adding a condition 4F, allowing for and requiring 16-foot wide minimum driveways on each lot, and direct staff to prepare a written reasoned decision.
You want to add anything, like what just?
Nope,
You good?
I understand that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Anybody want to second it?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And we have roll call, please.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Schreiber?
No.
Block?
Yes.
Kimball?
Yes.
Carey?
No.
Schlauthauer?
Yes.
All right. Motion is approved. Next, we'll look at the criteria for the PUD.
You all right? Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate the deliberation on this issue. The next item before us is the PUD review criteria, and this will address Mr. Schreiber's lot dimensions and some of those modifications that would normally be required and the give and take for the PUD, and that's basically we're using it as sort of a variance process at this point. So McKinley Meadows 26-1, they're asking for an increase in density plus some lot line adjustments or modifications there. I think those are outlined somewhere in the staff report.
Yeah, they're listed under condition number 4.
In the, page 12 of our,
Yep.
they have them listed there. So on these criteria, because we don't deal with a lot of PUDs, really the intent, and I was speaking with Warren Wilson, who originally drafted this code section today, it wasn't ever the intent to laboriously go through each of these items. Really the subparts, the A through D on our PUD criteria, really commentary or talking points for the main one. So given that, and a lot of these we've already addressed or will address in the subdivision code, I'll start with the main topic and see if you guys have comments on that as to how they satisfying and using the under points as discussion points. I don't know if that makes sense, but you'll see when I work through it.
Yeah, just do the big ones.
All right. Doing the big ones. Number 1, the proposed PUD provides for adequate utilities, services, and parking to service the proposed development.
Well, I mean, they're bringing water in from the west, which will provide for adequate service and increased service to the properties to the east. They will be using, there's adequate wastewater, and they're providing access to a completely inaccessible manhole today, so that will take care of criteria B. And parking, by providing 2 off-street exterior parking stalls as previously conditioned. And with them being really, really small homes, presumably with fewer occupants than one might expect on a 1/3 acre or neighboring subdivision, that on-street parking will not be as necessary, but also allowing for those extra 5. I think that does provide for adequate parking, probably the minimum, but adequate. And I think we've also approved other subdivisions recently that had private streets with no parking on them and minimal parking, but as soon as we end up with the 2 off-street and don't have to count all this on-street parking as extra, I think that ends up meeting the needs of the community.
Do we need to put any, is there any conflict with our cottage home code on the amount of, with the driveway width and the lot size. Is there any conflict that we need to address through the PUD?
I think by memorializing to the modified conditions in the PUD of the 16-foot width as being required, then that'll satisfy that in.
Or maybe want that a condition in the PUD also,
Well, yeah.
or over an overall condition, I guess.
Yeah, it should be part of the PUD conditions, because that 4F is specifically the PUD exceptions, which is why I threw it in there.
So we're adding that as a condition.
Right, that a 16-foot wide driveway in 4F, allow for and require 16-foot wide driveways.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. Any other comments on that first one?
No.
Okay. Number two, the proposed PUD provides for an integrated transportation network that adequately serves the proposed development by continuing streets sufficient to meet traffic volume, providing a local network, integrating pedestrian and bicycle systems. We've touched on some of these issues with some debate on that issue. So any comment on this one would be helpful.
I don't know if it's provides for integrated transportation, but it does, creates the private lane. There is access for emergency services. The sidewalks are there, possible future trails. So it does meet
Would
a
it be
lot.
called a local street network? Would it meet that?
Right. And providing that the
There's not enough
emergency
through.
egress on the
Yeah.
west side. So if there's a house on fire on the existing or in the existing street and the street's blocked, fire department can open up and allow people to exit west.
Agreed.
And they are connecting to the pedestrian network and providing the connectivity to the railroad for a future trail would provide connectivity to a potential future rails to trails network.
I do think there should be some provision, though, for that southwest lot to connect to the railroad right-of-way for the future trail that hopefully comes, so that it doesn't end up as one person's lot. I mean, I know it comes to the point,
It's in there.
but currently it comes to the one person's lot.
It is the last condition. I misread the last condition. It does say it has to be, the track needs to be modified to allow for that.
That's in the staff report.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It was condition 13, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, track A shall be modified to show and allow for future access to railroad rights of way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, commissioners. Number three, the proposed PUD. Somebody at one of these hearings called that a PUD, and they kept referring to it as a PUD. I kind of wish we'd go back to that because it's hilarious. The proposed PUD provides enhanced community design by incorporating natural features, integrating mix of compatible uses, and such. It looks like there was no testimony on incorporating significant features or integrating compatible land uses. There is some buffering testimony.
And there's the open space dedication of 10%, which is increased by 50% to 15%.
And the lots, the larger lots on the east side, I think do buffer it. And the design of the entry, I think there's been some effort there.
And like I said before, it's literally 17 lots in the backyard of one house today. I mean, it's one giant backyard, but the streetscape will look from the end of the cul-de-sac will really not change hardly at all.
There won't be as much, it looks like a junkyard now, isn't it?
Well, I won't comment. I don't know what it looks like today.
From the aerials.
I don't know if this is the right spot for this one, but as far as community design, the fact that the water has to come from Chase and then the school is going to benefit from a new parking lot and new pavement, and like that, it is just a benefit of this development that's somewhat directed to it. The school would not be able to pay for that and get that anytime soon. And as we all know, Celtics has been there for a minute.
Thank you, Commissioners. Sorry, I got tripped up. There was some testimony. I don't know if we have a condition of the easement being granted or the negotiation with the school district. I know it was promised and everything else, but we'll probably, obviously this proposal is conditioned on that access being finalized, so without a specific.
That probably should be in there.
We'll put that in at the end.
That's condition number 6.
The easement.
Thank you, I didn't see that one. Okay, number 4, the proposed PUD provides for timely development of the property and security for the future completion and maintenance by ensuring the development is all done independently. I don't think that's an issue because we have one phase here. Ensuring that each building has sufficient access for continual maintenance and ensuring the funding mechanism, Mr. Schreiber, exists to adequately maintain common areas that are not publicly maintained.
That's all taken care of within the condition 11.
It should be, but it's not. So 11 says it's for the capital repair and replacement of the private roadway. Strike private roadway, change it to common areas and common improvements. It's not just the roadway.
That's appropriate.
We got extensive landscaping on this one.
Agreed.
Mr. Manley said he tried on that one.
Close.
We're getting there.
Okay, thank you. We can move to deliberation on this issue.
Just a quick question too on condition number 12. It says a 6-foot fence shall be constructed along the BNSF rights of way with the first phase. Well, there is only one phase.
Tomato,
Are we trying to
tomato.
say prior to development or?
It would just be prior to the final
To
plat.
occupancy.
Okay. That's all.
Any more deliberation? I'd like to make a motion.
I move to approve McKinley Meadows PUD file number PUD 26-1, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.080 as outlined in our deliberation, subject to conditions 1 through 13 in the staff report, adding condition 4F to allow for and require 16-foot wide driveways on the single family lots, and to modify condition 11 to replace the term private roadway with private roadway and landscaping and amenities.
Okay, motion on the floor.
Second.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Carey,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schlauer,
Yes.
Schreiber,
No.
Flock.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Subdivision.
Thank you, Commissioners. Finally, the subdivision in the R1 zone. We've got 2.68 acres proposed into 18 single-family lots, cottage style, and we've gone through some of the other conditions or modifications of our normal subdivision process. So these ones, some of them which we've addressed before, so I will take a shortcut through some of these. Number 1, we've addressed the water system being addressed. I think we've addressed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we
City.
have.
City Post Falls.
Several times, I guess. I'm sorry.
City Post Falls water.
I think there's been testimony as to the public sewer being extended, and that was not an issue. Number 3, there might be a little more discussion on proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan.
Well, it's a private street connecting to a local street that has capacity, according to our city engineer.
And we'll meet the codes of our streets, and we did talk about storm drainage management and came up numerous times. And there's a condition about the homeowners association being responsible for the private road and everything else that comes along with that.
Thank you, Commissioners. Number 4, any topographical or soil hazards that have been identified and the use of these areas are compatible with such conditions. This might be an appropriate place just to talk about the stormwater if anybody had some additional thoughts.
Well,
Looks like it's got stormwater engineering, and the grade is still gonna be below the city street, and they've got on-site stormwater.
and they've done, it sounds like they've done some exploration and have found some things that may have been unsuitable, and they're gonna be mitigating and dealing with that, and they're placing fill and grading, and they've got a grading permit. They're doing all kinds of things like that to adjust for those things. So any topographical conditions that have been identified will be mitigated.
This was also a place in the staff report in the presentation that discussed the rail corridor and the fencing.
Right, and that's also been mitigated with the condition 12.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Number 5, the area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the use, and the use conforms to other requirements found in the code. Really on this one, by reason of the special use permit, it satisfies this criteria, or the approval of the special use permit.
Agreed.
And then number 6, the adequate plans by developer to pay for its fair share of the costs.
And that's done through building permit fees and impact fees, et cetera.
And
Yeah.
and some work for the school.
And some work for the school.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. Any other deliberation? Comments? Someone make a motion?
I would move to approve McKinley Meadows subdivision file SUBD 26-3, finding that it meets approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 17.12.060H, as outlined in our deliberations, subject to the conditions that are described in the PUD, contained in the staff report as modified for the PUD, and direct staff to prepare a written reasoned decision.
Okay, motion on the floor,
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Kimball,
Yes.
Carey,
Yes.
Schreiber,
With the SUP and the PUD approved, yes.
Schlauer,
Yes.
Flock,
Yes.
Stephenson.
Yes. Motion is approved. Next item on the agenda is administrative and staff reports.
There once was a town by the river.
That's what you were doing over there with your phone?
No,
ChatGPT?
none.
None?
No comments.
All right. Any commissioner comments?
I would just say that I think that I totally agree that this is,
Yeah, let's
these are
change
tough
this.
issues.
We don't want to do
But I
these
think
three
that this
again.
will be a really good chance for us to try this. You know, we're gonna know a lot more. And I believe this developer will go complete the project, and we're gonna know a lot more. You know, right, wrong, or different, we're gonna know more.
Right. I mean, there's some growing pains with implementing new code, new cottage, like the cottage code, and that'll be a struggle, but I think it's on the road, it's the right path to getting somewhere pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Like you said, Ray.
Having to make it this and
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Ray, you can see the arc from the street and everything, so.
The
We'll see.
ADU, you can have 3 on a lot now.
Yeah.
Kinda.
All right.
I think Commissioner Carey did you want to say something? Commissioner Carey, did you want to say something about
Have a comment?
changing something?
Oh, no.
Okay.
The only comment I had with Warren, I was talking to him today, I'm like, well, we have 3 hearings on one property tonight. He said he had 5 different propositions on one property for one night, one time, so I have not got to that point. Having 3 different hearings on one property seems like a lot, but.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was telling some of these.
Maybe we can make that better.
That's what I was saying. It's been up here for 9.5 years, and this is the first time I've seen something like this. And then just the fact I was telling Michael, we've had 2 special use permits in 2 months, and that doesn't come up that often, let alone a PUD. So
Next one will be a variance than an SUP.
I couldn't tell you that. I saw variance.
I'm calling in sick.
Right.
All right. All right, if there's no more comments, next motion is adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, adjourned.